The message arrived on Earth at precisely WO347 Universal Coordinated Time. It wasn't a perfect transmission. Static interlaced the alien voice, desperation bleeding through the Universal Translator's monotone delivery. Overwhelming forces. Colonial Outpost Vega 9. Extinction level event. Help us. Commander Ilara Voss stared at the holographic display, her weathered face illuminated by the soft blue glow. 27 years in the United Earth Defense Fleet hadn't prepared her for this moment. The first confirmed extraterrestrial distress call. "Play it again," she ordered, leaning forward in her chair aboard the UEDS Thunderchild. Lieutenant Casimir. Orlov's fingers danced across the console. "Origin point is approximately 42 light-years from Sol, Commander, the Vega star system." "That's impossible," muttered Science Officer Reiko Nakajima. "The signal would have taken 42 years to reach us." "Unless they've discovered something we haven't," Ilara replied, her eyes never leaving the coordinates. The bridge fell silent as implications settled over the crew. Humanity had barely colonized Mars and established mining operations on Jupiter's moons. Their most advanced ships, like the Thunderchild, could achieve only 0.15 light speed. A rescue mission to Vega would take nearly 3 centuries. Fleet Admiral Nassar's hologram materialized beside Ilara. "Commander Voss, I assume you've analyzed the transmission?" "Yes, sir. It's authentic. The Security Council is convening in 1 hour. This changes everything." Ilara nodded. "Sir, request permission to activate Protocol Prometheus." Nassar's holographic eyes widened. "That technology isn't ready." "With respect, Admiral, it's closer than you think. Dr. Calci has been refining the quantum displacement drive for years. Theoretical calculations suggest theory won't help dying aliens, Commander. No, but it might help us prevent the same threat from reaching Earth. Whatever is happening at Vega 9 could eventually find its way here." The Admiral's expression hardened. "You have 72 hours to prep the Thunderchild. I'll convince the Council." After the transmission ended, Ilara called her executive officer, Commander Davi Menezes. "It's time," she said simply. Davy understood immediately. "I'll contact Dr. Calci." Within hours, Dr. Prisha Calci arrived aboard the Thunderchild. Her team of quantum engineers following with mysterious containers bearing the highest security clearance. "You're asking me to install an experimental drive on your warship in 3 days, Prisha said, her accent thickening with stress. "This technology could tear your ship apart." Ilara handed her a tablet displaying the alien distress signal. "If we don't try, whatever destroyed their civilization might eventually destroy ours." Prisha studied the data, her brilliant mind already calculating possibilities. "The temporal displacement might be severe. Even if you reach Vega 9, for them it could be decades since they sent the signal. Or perhaps just days, if their technology is advanced enough to send faster-than-light communications," Ilara countered. For 48 sleepless hours, the Thunderchild underwent transformation. The experimental quantum displacement drive, designed to fold space rather than travel through it, was integrated into the ship's power systems. As the deadline approached, Ilara addressed her crew of 300 volunteers. None had been ordered to participate in this potentially one-way mission. "What we attempt today may be impossible," she said, her voice carrying throughout the ship. "But humanity has always achieved the impossible when faced with necessity. Someone out there needs our help. They reached across the void to us, and we will answer." The Thunderchild's engines hummed with new, unfamiliar energy as Lieutenant Orlov initiated the countdown. Quantum displacement in 3, 2, 1. Reality itself seemed to fracture around them, as if the universe objected to their defiance of its most fundamental laws. Then darkness, then light. Where Earth's sun had been moments before, an unfamiliar star now burned in their view screen. "Position confirmed," Casimir announced, his voice barely a whisper. We've reached the Vega system. Humanity had just taken its first step into the greater galaxy. The Vega system sprawled before them like a celestial battlefield. Debris fields orbited the star where planets should have been, and energy signatures flashed in the distance. Weapons fire. Multiple contacts detected, reported Tactical Officer Freya Onyekachi, her dark fingers moving across her console with practiced precision. 2 distinct energy signatures. One matches the SOS frequency. Commander Voss leaned forward. On. Screen. The main view screen resolved to show a desperate battle. 7 crystalline vessels, elegant spirals that seemed to be grown rather than built, fled from a pursuing force of massive black ships that resembled nothing so much as metallic predators. Those crystal ships are badly damaged, noted Dr. Kelsey, who had remained aboard to monitor the experimental drive. The others! She trailed off, mesmerized by the predatory grace of the pursuers. Open a channel to the crystalline vessels, Alara ordered. Lieutenant Vivek Pahuja at Communications shook his head. No response, Commander. Their communications array might be damaged. Then target the lead pursuing vessel. Weapons to 30%. Let's announce our presence. The Thunderchild's advanced pulse cannons fired, the energy blast striking the lead aggressor ship. The effect was immediate. The entire enemy fleet broke pursuit of the crystalline vessels and turned toward the human ship. They've noticed us, Davy observed dryly. A transmission burst through their communication system, not in any recognizable language, but in mathematical sequences that the ship's AI quickly translated to basic concepts: surrender, leave, die. Ilara's expression hardened. Tactical, full combat readiness. Let's show these bullies what humanity does when faced with threats. The Thunderchild accelerated, its advanced maneuverability systems allowing it to weave through the incoming fire. For all their menace, the alien aggressors clearly hadn't expected resistance from a new player in their hunting grounds. Their weapons are powerful but predictable, Freya noted. They're using standard attack patterns, nothing adaptive. Ilara nodded. Exploit that. Target their weapons arrays specifically. As the Thunderchild engaged the enemy, one of the crystalline ships changed course, approaching cautiously. A new transmission filtered through their communication system, this one matching the SOS frequency. The Universal Translator processed the signal. Unknown vessel, we are Luminari. You, respond to our call. Impossible. Distance too great. Ilara smiled. This is Commander Ilara Voss of the United Earth Defense Ship Thunderchild. We received your distress signal and came to assist. There was a pause before the response came. Earth? The Forbidden Zone? The legends speak truth. Before Ilara could ask what that meant, 3 enemy vessels converged on the Thunderchild's position. The ship rocked violently as their weapons impacted the shields. Shields at 60%. Reported engineer Haruki Tanaka from engineering. These hits are drawing massive power. The crystalline ship, the luminary vessel, suddenly accelerated toward them, interposing itself between the Thunderchild and the next barrage. The impact shattered portions of its beautiful structure. They're protecting us, Davy said in disbelief. A new transmission came through. Follow. Safe harbor. Cannot fight Void Hunters directly. Ilara hesitated only a moment. Follow their lead. Lieutenant Orlov, let's see where our new friends take us. The Thunderchild and the remaining luminary vessels retreated toward one of the larger debris fields, the remnants of what must have been a massive space station. As they approached, energy fields activated, revealing hidden entrances in what appeared to be lifeless wreckage. It's camouflaged, Reiko observed with professional admiration. Advanced technology. Once inside the hidden station, the Luminari ship that had protected them docked alongside. Through the viewports, the crew could see the aliens for the first time. Tall, slender beings with translucent skin that seemed to pulse with inner light. Commander, said Vivek from Communications. They're requesting permission to board. Ilara straightened her uniform. Humanity's first formal diplomatic contact with an alien species. Grant permission and prepare the reception area. As the airlock cycled, Ilara couldn't help but wonder what chain of events they had just set in motion by answering a simple distress call from across the stars. The Luminari delegation consisted of 3 beings, each nearly 7 feet tall, with bodies that seemed to shimmer between solid matter and pure energy. Their leader, who introduced herself as Meridian, moved with fluid grace despite obvious injuries. "Forgive our surprise at your arrival," Meridian said, her translated voice melodic. "No species has crossed such distances so quickly." They gathered in the Thunderchild's conference room, surrounded by view screens showing the hidden station and the continuing distant battle. "Our quantum displacement drive is experimental," Ilara explained. "We received your distress call and couldn't ignore it." Meridian's inner light pulsed. "The Void Hunters have pursued us across 17 star systems. They are not a natural species, but weapons created long ago for a war everyone has forgotten. They exist only to consume advanced civilizations." Dr. Kelsey leaned forward. "Created? By whom?" "The predecessors, a species that destroyed themselves through their own technology 10,000 years ago. The Void Hunters were their final legacy, programmed to prevent any other civilization from reaching their level of advancement." Davy exchanged glances with Ilara. "That explains why they attacked you." "Yes. The Luminari achieved interstellar travel 5 centuries ago. We established peaceful colonies throughout this sector. Then the Hunters found us." Meridian's light dimmed, noticeably. "Of our 12 colony worlds, only 3 remain. Vega 9 was our scientific outpost, researching defense technologies." "And the SOS?" Ilara asked. "A desperate measure. We sent quantum-entangled messages in all directions, hoping someone might hear us before the end. We never imagined humans would answer." Reiko's brow furrowed. "You mentioned Earth as the Forbidden Zone. You knew about us?" Meridian hesitated. "Many spacefaring races know of Earth. Your planet was quarantined." Stunned silence filled the room before Ilara found her voice. "Quarantined? By whom?" "A coalition of species concerned about humanity's dual nature. Your capacity for both extraordinary compassion and terrifying violence is unique among sentient beings we have encountered. The decision was made to observe but not contact Earth until you either destroyed yourselves or outgrew your volatility." Freya laughed without humor. "So the galaxy has been watching us like some reality entertainment show. Not entertainment, study, hope, fear." Meridian's translator struggled with the concepts. "Your evolution has been remarkably rapid. Most species take millennia to progress from primitive technology to space exploration. Humanity did it in centuries." Engineer Tanaka spoke up. "Is that why these Void Hunters haven't targeted Earth? Because we were quarantined?" "Precisely. But by coming here, you've changed everything. They will now know of Earth's location through tracking your quantum signature. The implications hit everyone simultaneously. Earth was no longer hidden." "How? Long before they could reach our solar system?" Ilara asked sharply. "At their fastest velocity, perhaps 30 of your years," Meridian answered. "But they will come, eventually. Their programming is absolute." Ilara stood, decision made. "Then we help you destroy them here, before they become Earth's problem." "Impossible," Meridian responded. "Many have tried. The Hunters adapt to all conventional weapons after initial exposure." Dr. Kelsey, who had been quiet, suddenly spoke. "What if we're thinking about this incorrectly? If they're programmed machines rather than evolving beings, perhaps we need a programmer's solution rather than a warrior's." All eyes turned to her. The quantum displacement drive works by manipulating foundational reality fields," she continued. "If these Hunters were created by an ancient civilization, they would operate on specific programming parameters. What if we could introduce a quantum-level virus into their systems? For the first time, Meridian's inner light brightened with something that might have been hope. Our scientists theorized similar approaches, but lacked the quantum manipulation technology to implement them. Your arrival may not have been coincidence, but necessity. Commander Voss looked around the room at her crew, then at their new allies. Let's get to work. We have a galaxy to save. The hidden station, which the Luminari called the Sanctuary, became the center of feverish activity. Human engineers and scientists worked alongside their luminary counterparts, combining technologies never meant to interact. Their computational systems are organic, crystalline matrices, Dr. Calci explained during a briefing 3 days later. Fundamentally different from our quantum computers, but the underlying principles translate. On the main display, a simulation showed their developing weapon, a modified quantum displacement field that would target the Void Hunter's core programming. We can't destroy them conventionally, explained Luminari scientist Helion, whose specialized knowledge of the Hunters had proven invaluable. But your displacement technology could essentially fold their programming back on itself, creating a recursive loop they cannot escape. Commander Voss studied the simulation. So, rather than fighting fire with fire, we're fighting fire with paradox, finished Helion. The plan required 3 critical components. The Thunderchild's experimental drive would generate the quantum field, Luminary crystalline technology would encode the paradox virus, and, most dangerously, they needed direct access to a Void Hunter vessel to plant the initial infection. Once one Hunter is infected, Dr. Calci said, the virus will spread through their network communication. It's elegant, really. They'll destroy themselves, with the very connectedness that makes them formidable. Ilara nodded. The question remains, how do we get close enough to a Hunter ship without being destroyed? Tactical Officer Onyekachi leaned forward. I've been analyzing their attack patterns. The Hunters prioritize larger threats first and divert minimal resources to smaller targets. A shuttlecraft might reach one before their weapons fully engage. A suicide mission, Davi said quietly. The room fell silent until Lieutenant Orlov spoke. Not necessarily. If we combine our stealth systems with Luminari phasing technology, a small craft might become effectively invisible until the final approach. Meridian, who had been listening intently, raised a crystalline hand. There is another option. The Hunters are drawn to advanced technology. We could use one of our damaged vessels as bait, filled with enough technology to be irresistible. When they capture it for analysis, our team would already be aboard, Ilara finished, seeing the strategy. For hours, they refined the plan, addressing contingencies and failure points. The Greater Void Hunter fleet continued its systematic destruction of the outer Vega system, apparently unaware of the hidden sanctuary, but that wouldn't last forever. We need volunteers for the insertion team, Ilara finally announced. I won't order anyone to take this risk. Before she finished speaking, hands raised throughout the room, both human and Luminari. Ilara selected a team of 4. Lieutenant Orlov for his piloting skills, Engineer Tanaka for technical expertise, herself as commander, and Helion as the Luminari expert on Hunter technology. The rest of you will coordinate from the Thunderchild, she instructed. If we fail, your orders are to return to Earth and prepare defenses. Dr. Calci approached her after the briefing disbanded. The quantum virus is ready, but there's something you should know. She lowered her voice. The displacement field will be unstable. Once activated, you'll have approximately 3 minutes to evacuate before it collapses into a quantum singularity. A black hole? A temporary one, but yes, anything within half a kilometer will be consumed. Ilara processed this information. Does anyone else know this detail? Only me. I discovered it during final simulations. Keep it that way. The mission proceeds as planned. As preparations continued, Ilara recorded a personal message for transmission to Earth in case the mission failed. She spoke of first contact, of the Luminary's courage, and of the threat that now knew humanity existed. Her final words were simple. "We came to answer a call for help. We found a universe both more wondrous and more dangerous than we imagined. Whatever happens next, humanity is no longer alone, and we will not go quietly into the night." With the modified Luminary vessel prepared, the insertion team made final checks of their equipment. The plan would commence in 6 hours. They would have one chance to save not only the Luminary civilization, but potentially Earth itself. Commander Voss looked out at the stars, wondering if humanity's first step into the galactic community would also be its last. The damaged Luminary vessel drifted through space, its systems broadcasting just enough power signatures to be detected, but not enough to suggest a trap. Inside its modified cargo hold, Ilara and her team waited in darkness, surrounded by Luminary technology deliberately arranged to appear as research materials. "Hunter vessel approaching," Hellion whispered, his crystalline form dimmed to minimal. "Luminescence. Their scanning patterns suggest interest. Through specialized viewing ports, they watched as the massive black ship, resembling a predatory sea creature from Earth's deepest oceans, maneuvered alongside their bait, mechanical. Tentacles extended from its hull, wrapping around the Luminary craft. "They're pulling us in," Orlov reported. Just as predicted, Engineer Tanaka monitored the quantum virus package strapped to his back. "Displacement field stable. We're ready." Ilara checked her weapon, a modified pulse rifle incorporating Luminary energy principles. "Remember, we need to reach their central processing core. Helion believes it will be in the geometric center of the vessel." The Luminary craft shuddered as it was drawn into an enormous bay within the Hunter ship. They felt gravity shift as unfamiliar environmental systems engaged. "Atmosphere being added," Helion noted with surprise. "They're preserving the ship for study rather than immediately dismantling it." "Lucky us," Davy muttered. They waited until mechanical sounds outside indicated the Hunter's automated systems had begun preliminary analysis of their captured prize. Then, using Luminary phase-shifting technology, they slipped through the hull of their own vessel directly into the Hunter ship. The interior was unlike anything they had imagined, not mechanical as expected, but quasi-organic, resembling a massive circulatory system with pulsing energy conduits and chambers that expanded and contracted rhythmically. "It's alive," Tanaka whispered in horror. Helion's light flickered. "Not alive as we understand it. This is biomechanical integration, the predecessor's technology merging machine and organic components." They moved cautiously through arterial corridors, avoiding what appeared to be maintenance drones, spherical objects that floated on unknown propulsion systems, occasionally stopping to repair or adjust components of the living ship. "No crew," Orlov observed. "Completely automated." "The perfect weapon," Ilara replied. "No conscience, no hesitation, no mercy." As they penetrated deeper, the ship's internal defense systems finally detected them. Walls suddenly extruded spikes, corridors sealed, and hunter-killer drones deployed. Smaller versions of the main ships that zoomed through the passageways with lethal intent. "Run!" Ilara ordered as they fled down a pulsing corridor. Their weapons proved effective against individual drones, but more kept coming. Tanaka was hit, a glancing blow that seared through his suit into his shoulder. Orlov helped him continue, as Ilara and Helion provided covering fire. "The core should be just ahead," Helion called out, consulting a crystalline device that mapped energy flows. They reached a sealed barrier that pulsed with power, clearly a significant boundary within. The ship. Helion placed his hands against it, his own crystalline structure resonating with the barrier's frequency. "I can create an opening, but only briefly," he said, his form glowing intensely with effort. The barrier rippled and parted like living tissue. Beyond lay what could only be the central core, a massive crystalline structure that pulsed with dark energy, suspended in a chamber of swirling mechanical components. That's it, Helion confirmed. The primary programming nexus. They fought their way inside as more drones converged on their position. Tanaka, despite his injury, began configuring the quantum virus package while the others established a defensive perimeter. "How much longer?" Ilara shouted over the sound of weapons fire. 2 minutes to integration," Tanaka replied through gritted teeth. "The system architecture is adapting against us. It's learning as I work." A massive shock wave suddenly rippled through the ship, throwing them all to the floor. "What was that?" Davi asked. Through their communication systems, Commander Menezes's voice came through. "The Thunderchild has engaged the Hunter fleet to draw attention away from your position. We've been discovered." Outside their mission, a new battle had begun. The Thunderchild, alongside the remaining Luminary vessels, had launched a desperate attack to buy them time. "Work faster," Ilara ordered Tanaka, who nodded grimly, his hands moving with renewed urgency across the interface. As the ship shuddered around them, Ilara realized with terrible clarity that even if they succeeded, extracting themselves from the Hunter vessel might be impossible. She caught Helion watching her, understanding in his crystalline eyes. "Your species is indeed remarkable," the Luminary said quietly. "To travel so far for strangers." "It's what we do," Ilara replied simply. "We don't leave calls for help unanswered." Tanaka's voice cut through their moment. "It's done. The virus is integrating." Around them, the core's pulsing rhythm faltered, then began an erratic pattern. Throughout the vessel, systems flickered as the quantum virus spread through its neural network. "Now we run," Ilara said, helping Tanaka to his feet. "We have less than 3 minutes before the displacement field collapses." As they turned to flee, a section of wall suddenly reconfigured, sealing their exit. More barriers formed around them as the Hunter ship, in its dying moments, attempted to contain the infection by isolating its core. They were trapped. "The ship is trying to quarantine us along with the virus," Helion explained, his light pulsing with urgency. "It's sacrificing this section to save the whole." Tanaka checked his instruments. 2 minutes 40 seconds until quantum collapse." Ilara's mind raced through options, finding none. They were sealed in a chamber at the heart of an enemy vessel, with no way out, and a microscopic black hole about to form within arm's reach. Communicator crackled. "Commander Voss, report status." It was Davi from the Thunderchild, his voice tight with concern. "Mission accomplished," she responded calmly. "The virus is deployed, but we're contained. No extraction possible." A moment of silence followed before Davi's voice returned. "Stand by. We're coming for you." Outside, the battle had intensified. The Thunderchild weaved through Hunter vessels, its experimental drive giving it maneuverability that confused the enemy targeting systems. The Luminary ships, though fewer in number, fought with desperate courage, their crystalline weapons carving through Hunter armor. Inside the sealed chamber, Ilara's team continued searching for weaknesses in their prison. "If we could access the ship's phase variance controls," Helion suggested, "we might be able to shift partially out of material space as my people can." Orlov looked up sharply. "The Hunter ships use quantum field technology for their weapons. If we could reverse the polarity of our own displacement device, we could create a temporary tunnel through their containment fields," Tanaka finished, already reconfiguring the device despite his injury. "It won't last long." "How long?" "Until collapse?" Ilara asked. 1 minute, 50 seconds. Outside, the Thunderchild executed a maneuver that would have been impossible before the experimental drive. It briefly disappeared from normal space, reappearing directly alongside the Hunter vessel containing the team, targeting their central hull section, reported Tactical Officer Onyekachi from the Thunderchild's bridge. "We'll only get one shot at this," Commander Menezes warned. "Fire when ready." The Thunderchild's main weapons concentrated on a single point of the massive hunter ship, boring through layer after layer of advanced material. Inside, the team felt the impact. Portions of their prison destabilized enough for Tanaka's modified field to create a tunnel through the barrier. "Go!" Ilara ordered, pushing her team through the opening. They emerged into a corridor filled with chaos. Emergency systems activated, drones flying erratically as the virus corrupted their programming. In the distance, they could see hull breaches, where the Thunderchild's weapons had penetrated. 1 minute, Tanaka gasped, checking the countdown. They ran through the disintegrating ship, following Helian's guidance toward the breach. Behind them, the quantum virus spread exponentially through the hunter's systems, causing cascading failures. The Thunderchild maintained position despite taking heavy fire from other hunter vessels. Its shields flickered dangerously as it held. "Open an escape corridor." 30 seconds, Tanaka called out as they reached the hull breach. Beyond it, they could see the Thunderchild hovering just meters away, an airlock open and waiting. Orlov went first, leaping across the void. Tanaka followed, his injured body barely making the distance before Davy's hands pulled him inside. 20 seconds, Ilara said to Helion. "Your turn." The Luminari hesitated. "My people's physiology. I cannot survive in vacuum even briefly." Ilara didn't hesitate. She removed her own atmospheric suit and wrapped it around the crystalline being. "Now you can." "But you— Go!" she ordered, physically pushing him toward the breach. Helion, protected by her suit, made the jump safely to the Thunderchild. Ilara stood alone on the edge of the breach, the vacuum of space just centimeters away, with no protection. 10 seconds, she whispered to herself. Across the gap, she saw Davy's horrified face as he realized her sacrifice. She smiled at him and stepped back from the breach. Inside the Thunderchild's airlock, Davy screamed orders, "Emergency beam lock! Get her out now!" The experimental transporter, another technology barely tested, activated, locking onto Ilara's cellular pattern just as the quantum collapse began inside the hunter vessel. For Ilara, the world dissolved into pure energy. Her consciousness scattered across a quantum field, pulled in opposing directions by both the transporter beam and the forming singularity. In that moment of suspended existence, she perceived reality differently, saw the threads connecting all. Living things across the galaxy witnessed the pattern of creation itself. Then she was on the Thunderchild's transporter pad, gasping for air, her skin frost-burned from seconds of vacuum exposure, but alive. "Get us out of here!" Davy shouted to the bridge as the hunter ship imploded behind them, collapsing into a temporary quantum singularity that consumed not only itself, but 2 nearby hunter vessels. The Thunderchild accelerated away, its experimental drive engaged. Throughout the Vega system, hunter vessels began behaving erratically as the virus spread from ship to ship through their quantum communication network. Some exploded. Others turned on each other, firing without apparent purpose. Still others simply powered down, becoming lifeless hulks drifting through space. In the medical bay, as her injuries were treated, Ilara watched the sensor feeds with Meridian and what remained of her insertion team. "It worked," she said hoarsely. "The virus is collapsing their entire network." Meridian's crystalline form pulsed with emotion. "You've given my people something we had lost. Hope." The battle wasn't entirely won. Some hunter vessels in distant parts of the sector might avoid infection, but the immediate threat to the Luminari had been eliminated. "What happens now?" Davy asked as the Thunderchild established a stable orbit around what remained of Vega 9. Ilara looked at Meridian. "I believe we've just ended a quarantine." The Luminary leader's light brightened. "Yes. When word spreads of what happened here, the Coalition cannot justify keeping Earth isolated. Humanity has proven itself." "Not just proven ourselves," Ilara said quietly. "We've announced ourselves. For better or worse, the galaxy now knows that when someone calls for help, humanity answers, and we bring the storm with us. As the Thunder Child prepared for its quantum jump back to Earth, carrying representatives of the Luminari and news that would forever change human history, Commander Alara Voss looked out at the stars with new understanding. The message humanity had sent wasn't just that they would answer calls for help. It was that the quiet, quarantined species from the Forbidden Zone had emerged from isolation with the power to challenge even the most terrifying forces in the galaxy. The SOS had been heard, and humanity had become the storm that swept away the darkness.